For you. Just hold on a second. We all love our smartphones. Okay, we got that. But do we give up our privacy when we text people, when we email, the voicemails we have? Could those messages be used, invade our privacy, and used in court against us? Obvious question for the judge, who just happens to be sitting right here. And by the way, he's the author of that book, Theodore and Woodrow. I'm on page 278 now.
A good reason, if no other, to purchase them.
Oh, absolutely. So, smartphones, how private are they?
You know,
they're not.
I am worried that I and people who think the way I do, that the right to privacy is a fundamental human natural right, are losing this battle. Because it seems to be that the vast use of these phones by the public, and hence by law enforcement to learn what the public is saying, doing, and thinking, is indicative of a lack of privacy attending them. Here's my view. My view is that when you and I communicate, that is a private communication. And if the government wants it, they have to get a search warrant, whether they get it from you or whether they get it from the means through which we communicate, the company that owns the equipment that allows our cell phones to communicate with each other. And the courts have not yet ruled on this. However, the police are persuading Google or whoever it may be to give them this information without a search warrant. Whether they use it in prosecutions and whether that use is upheld by appellate courts remains to be seen.
Yeah, and the argument on the part of law enforcement is, I'm not saying I agree with this either way. Here's their argument, that it's they're business records that phone companies hold on the part of consumers, and that when you go in breaking into a trunk of a car, if there's a suitcase filled with marijuana, that's the same thing with the cell phone. That is sort of like a
well, it's actually an easier argument. I must admit, being intellectually honest, it's actually an easier argument for the police. Their argument is that if you and I communicate via a note, no one sees it. But if we communicate via texting, that's like putting that note on a bulletin board. It goes through so many different steps between you and me, we ought to expect that in one of those steps, someone else will see it.
To wrap this up, it just seems to me that my letter to you, if I ever wrote one, is much more private, much more difficult to get at than an email that I might send you or a text message. Is that true?
That is the case, but it shouldn't be. They should all be equally as difficult under the Fourth Amendment for the government to get them.